on an everyday basis, as it were. Voices in the head. Where for a long time, people have been staying away from all the psychological, mental aspects. Almost it feels like, and this is certainly things that goes hand in hand and into that area. So instead of looking at these problems where, as you say, we just take people and lock them up on mental hospital, or to get away with this problem. But this is very serious, actually.
Yeah, it certainly is very serious, and there's so many people out there that are victims of this kind of stuff, and they know they're victims of it, and they're having a hard time dealing with it. But I wonder how many people out there are getting hit with this stuff, and they're buying what the doctor's telling them.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember one night years ago going out and getting a pack of cigarettes at a local gas station, and I remember this. It went down into one of the lesser fortunate neighborhoods to get it, because they had the kind of cigarettes I like to smoke there.
Mm-hmm.
And here's this kid talking to this girl over here, and he says, you don't want to be with me or hang out with me because I hear voices and stuff like that, right? You just think I'm crazy. And I'm thinking, I bet you this kid's getting hit with this stuff.
Yeah. They could. I guess they even could, as you say, if they spread this over an entire area, it might not be something that is picked up by everyone, but a lot of people in that area actually are, for some reason, either if it's genetic or physiological, or if it's even psychological, then they actually are picking up on this and are hearing these voices, and it might even be a different experience for everyone, as long as they trigger some kind of mental thing that is inside your own head, meaning that they just deliver the signal, but the voices or the outcome of it, what you actually hear, may be even different from person to person. Could that be the case, do you think?
Oh yes. They definitely, what they do is, when we got to come back to the whole bio-resonant frequency, the bioelectromagnetics. Just like you have a fingerprint, everyone has a unique fingerprint. We all have a unique bioelectric print, if you will, and they can hone in on that specifically. And you can be in a group of people, and they can hone in on one person's frequency and actually target them. They could drive that one person crazy and do anything and everything that they wanted to, and nobody else around them would understand it. If they had no concept or awareness of this type of knowledge and that these weapon systems existed.
Yeah.
Or they could actually spray this whole type of frequency beam over a whole area. In fact, I suspect that what happened in Los Angeles, what was that, 1991, 92, when the LA riots happened?
Yeah.
I suspect they zapped that whole town. It just doesn't make sense to me that the whole city just went up in flames. In just a split second like that. Everybody flips out at once.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be, definitely. To make people get to that level of aggression or whatever, just unconsciously go out and thrash. But yeah, that's very interesting. But one thing I kind of I guess round up this segment on a note that is, I guess that this hasn't completely stopped then for you, but would you say that this have eased down or subsided, as it were? And if that is the case, was it something specific that you did, do you think, or was it that you were able to maintain your own personality throughout this time, so that they eventually gave up on you? What do you think is going on here?
I think in some ways, I probably beat them. But in other ways, sometimes I feel like I'm not quite sure of it. Maybe there's something else going on here that I'm not aware of, that instead of turning the volume up real loud on me, they actually have it on a lower level. I'm not sure, but what happened for me is when they were hitting me one time, I ended up picking up the Carlos Castaneda book called The Power of Silence. And, he talks a lot about the energy body and things of that nature. And when I started reading that book, it kind of put me in this place, and it made complete sense to me because of the type of mind I was in, getting a state of mind when this kind of stuff was going on. And, from reading his work, there's this one other thing that he talks about. So around us is this energy body. And on our energy body is something called a focal point. And the whole nature of a shaman, as far as that whole Toltec tradition that Don Juan was teaching Carlos Castaneda is, I guess some people say it could just be some kind of hoax or something, those books, but I don't know. It kind of made sense to me in regards to what I was going through.
Sure, yeah.
That the whole nature of a shaman is to be able to get control of that focal point on the energy body, and if you can slightly move it, you can actually change your perceptions. And they were discussing in the one book, The Fire Within, how some people get in accidents and it will knock that focal point out of place. And Don Juan was saying, well, they just, they'll just think they're crazy, and eventually it will slap back into place, and life will go on the normal for them, and whatever. But I started to consider, that's probably part of what maybe is happening when they do this stuff, and maybe they're not even aware of it, that they're kind of pushing the focal point. So that's how I started to look at it.
Yeah.
And then eventually, as I started to kind of learn to sit with it and deal with it, I wasn't letting it get into me as much, because a lot of it was using fear against me. They would say, "Oh, we're gonna kill your friend. Someone's coming to kill your friend." So I'd get on my bike and I'd ride down to my friend's house and I'd sit on his porch, and I'd be suspect of anybody and everybody coming by. So they used a lot of that kind of stuff on me. What I eventually began to realize is that the only thing that they could affect me through was my ego. That was the sort of doorway for them to control. Below I kind of see the ego as more of not from a psychological perspective, but more from a spiritual perspective, if you're aware of the type of things that Eckhart Tolle talks about. If you don't give them anything to go on, they have nothing to work with.
That's right.
And another thing that I started to do was a friend of mine gave me this book on crystals. And I read this book on crystals that he gave me called Rocks of Ages. And the crystal, when you hold it in your hands or get it warm around your body, it can balance certain natural energies in your body depending on the properties of the crystal. And when I started to carry a double terminated quartz, which gives you the kind of higher frequencies and sets up a kind of energy shield in conjunction with another type of crystal called galena, which is a lead crystal. And that sets up it kind of grounds you and puts up like a strong barrier against radiation and type of things like that. And that's what a lot of these weapons work on. They call it non-ionizing radiation. So when I started to carry these crystals with me, how it would go is when they would first try and zap me, they would hit me in such a way to kind of knock me off balance in a mental way, and then get me rolling in a certain direction. But with the crystals, there was a couple times they tried to zap me and get me knocked off balance, and it didn't work. I was able to maintain myself. It's not like I wasn't experiencing this. I was still experiencing, but I was able to rest and sit in the inner presence of myself. Instead of getting caught in my ego, because if I get trapped in my ego, well, then they can just roll me along. So that's kind of how I started to, defeat this type of